Hello everyone, and welcome to my first ever patch review for Honkai Star Rail. Once per patch, I'll go over everything added within that specific patch and talk about what worked, what didn't work, and everything in between. If that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing. I'll be doing this once per patch. Without further ado, let's review Honkai Star Rail patch 1.4, Jolted Awake from a Winter Dream. By far, the most important addition to this patch is the new Trailblaze Continuance. While the primary narrative is on a bit of a hiatus after patch 1.2 and doesn't seem to be progressing much beyond that, patch 1.4 takes the opportunity to return the cast to Belobog and pick up where that storyline left off, while also not feeling like it's beating a dead horse. While the Trailblaze Continuance isn't groundbreaking, I do enjoy the narrative quite a bit, given that it utilizes the existing cast quite well, and grants some much needed context to the inner workings of the universe and some of the history, including a handy explanation for why some enemies share designs between the IPC and Belobog robots. On the other hand, Jing Liu's companion quest was arguably the strongest part of the Xianzhou storyline. We finally get some much needed context behind what exactly happened to everyone involved, and while the narrative isn't resolved, we get some interesting teases for what's to come and some satisfying moments. Probably my favorite companion quest after Clara's, just because it felt so meaty compared to most other companion quests. This patch also introduced 2 new 5-star characters and 1 new 4-star character, and 2 new 5-star light cones. Jing Liu and Topaz are both fun, with Jing Liu actually being my biggest damage dealer at the moment. Gwen Fen slots perfectly onto a Kafka DOT team, and she works well enough with most Nihility light cones that it's hard to argue against using her. 2 new events were added in 1.4, Ethereum Wars and the Planar Infinity event. I've actually made a whole video about Ethereum Wars and why I think it's the best event Star Rail has had to date, and so that will be linked at the end of this video and in the description. Planar Infinity is a simple event that utilizes the specific I'm having a hard time with this one. Planar Infinity is a simple event that utilizes the specific mechanics in the simulated universe and creates something of a, quote, custom run. For instance, one of them is a run that is guaranteed to give you one of the rarest events that can give you all of the buffs associated with your chosen path. At the end of the run is a fun challenge mode where you test your now overpowered team to see if it can overcome some supercharged enemies. While the mode isn't nearly as fleshed out as Swarm Disaster, it's a fun twist on the normal simulated universe, and I hope they continue to update it in the future. Some small improvements to the game's systems were included as well, namely the addition of a text log where the players can read previous dialogue and a new in-depth tutorial that helps players understand the combat system better. While I wouldn't say the game's combat was hard to understand, it's good to have something like this in the game for people who aren't as familiar with RPGs. Overall, I would say that 1.4 was a resounding success, and while nothing in the patch was revolutionary, I did enjoy the story content it provided and the new events included. Star Rail has done an amazing job of adding substantial content in its updates, and while I have specific gripes with the main narrative, most of the story content has continued to at least be engaging, and the events have continued to be nothing but stellar. Moving forward, patch 1.5 seems to be something of a post-Halloween celebration, and while it doesn't look to be actually scary, it is definitely leaning into the ghost story aesthetic. I'm not too keen on the revealed characters, but the new events and areas look fun, and the new simulated universe World 8 looks to be a fun time. Overall, I'm continually impressed by Star Rail's quality bar, and I hope they manage to keep it up. Thanks for watching, have a great rest of your day, and if you liked the video, please consider subscribing.